Alright, so this video is going to take you the rest of the way through the Excel tutorial, and it may be a little bit long, but I do want to hit formulas and functions kind of all together because they are very similar, and then the print section is very short. So we've got our text in. Our text, as we talked about, defines our numbers. We have our numbers in, and therefore everything's been formatted. It looks nice, and we've learned some basic formatting techniques to make things look good without us having to do a whole lot of work. Now I want to talk about formulas and functions. Those are the other things we can enter, and that's where the real power of Excel starts to come into play. We have two different things we can enter. We can enter built-in functions, and I'm going to use a little blank space down here, but all built-in functions take the same format. It's equal keyword, and the keyword will change depending on what you want to do. So if you want to add, the keyword might be sum. If you want to average, the keyword would be average. But the keyword would define that. Then you'll have a parentheses, whatever the arguments are for your function, and depending on what you're doing, that will change. Some have very specific arguments that are required. Others are just a range. We talked about ranges last time for that. And they'll all take that form somehow. And then again, what goes in there specifically changes. Oops, it didn't like that because that's not a real function, so we will get rid of that one. How do I get functions in there? Well, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. Okay, for simple functions like sum, I'm going to go ahead and come up here. We'll put that in. That's a very common thing to do, so it's on the home ribbon, and on the auto sum list I can choose sum, and we actually have sum, average, count numbers, min, and max, all very common functions. If I want to do something more complex, I have the more functions, and that brings up the dialog box. Or I can simply go here, and that brings up the function dialog box. Or if I'm not quite sure what I want, I have the whole formulas ribbon, and I can come over here. Again, the auto sum list is the same as on the home ribbon. I've got financial functions. As you can see, there's a lot of them. Logical functions, text functions, date and time functions, lookup and reference functions, math and trig functions, again, lots of those, and then even more statistical, engineering, cube, information, compatibility. Even if you use Excel a lot, you probably won't touch on most of these functions, but they are all there, typically because it's something that is easier. You could put a function in, and in one quick step it tells you what you want to do. It makes life easier for the user. So we are going to focus today, and we'll just go back to the home ribbon, on the functions that you see here, the sum, average, min, and max. And we'll start with the sum function. Again, when the arguments for all of these, when I say arguments, that's what you put inside the parentheses, are typically a range. In the case of a sum function, it would be the group of numbers that you want to add. And I'll just remind you again, when you're setting up a range, you want to give it the upper left and lower right. So if I wanted to add all of the dollars, or all of the money from hats for all the months that we have so far, I would give the range B3 through G3, and I would do that with saying B3 colon G3. So when I want to sum that, I simply, and again, just watch for now, we'll go back and do together in a minute. For that, I will hit sum, and it's going to guess. Excel likes to guess your range. Sometimes it guesses right, sometimes not so much, but there's our sum function. And I can press enter if it's the right range, and I am done. Once I have a function in, I can use the fill handle to copy it. Okay, so I could fill this down. Now, we already did our formatting, if you recall, when we were setting up our numbers. When I fill it, it can mess that up. So I have to go back and tell it, and this is the autofill drop down, fill without formatting, and that way it keeps my current formatting, or my previous formatting. Okay, and let me get rid of all that for now. Oh, actually, let me put it back. Okay, we'll leave it there for now. The average function, it works pretty much the same way. From the drop down, you pick average. It's gonna guess. Now, because we have the total here, it's guessing wrong. We do not want to include the total in an average. typically average, min, max, you would never include the total because it would skew things. So we actually have to fix that range, and I can fix it a couple ways. One is I can just manually go back and select the correct range, which is B3 through G3. Or if I'd rather, I can go, let me go back and do this again, average, and I can just come in here where it says H and type in a G and fix it that way. Or, and this is kind of a good workaway, if where you want to put the averages in the next blank cell, I can actually select the range that I want to average. Oops, choose average from the drop down, and it will stick it in the next blank cell to the right. So all three of those ways are valid ways of getting the average into your spreadsheet. Okay. Now min, the min is there to find the smallest number in a range of numbers. And I know every one of you could look at that little list we have there and say, well, the smallest number for hats was June, and that's 558. And that would be true as long as nothing changed. Okay? And that wasn't hard to do because we only had 6 numbers to look at. If I had 100 numbers to look at and they were constantly changing, I would not want to have to do it manually. So that's when we use these, that's why we use these functions. And again, for the min, I'm going to put it in, I'm going to guess, it's going to guess wrong, so I need to fix it. Okay? Hit enter, and then I've got that. And the max, just the opposite, it finds the highest. Okay, so I do max, and again, just watch for now, we'll do this together there, and then I can actually select all 3 of them together and fill. Okay, and again, I want to do my fill without formatting so that it doesn't mess up my formatting. Alright, now we're going to go back and we're going to do this together. And I wanted to show you something else with the fill handle, so we'll do that in a minute. Alright, so together we're going to use the sum function to calculate the sum of the hats in H3. So here's H3, we're going to hit the sum button, and we're going to press enter. And that puts our sum in there. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and fill that one. So select fill, drag down, and then choose fill, fill without formatting. So we've got that. Alright, and we're going to do the average function here. We'll do that one this way with selecting average, and then going back to select the correct range and pressing enter. And then for the min and the max, let's go ahead and select January through June and choose min. It'll stick that in the next blank cell. And then we'll come over here, choose January through June, and select max, and it'll get that. Then what we will do is we will select Fat White Plus, highlight all 3 of them, grab that fill handle, drag down just to row 7, and then choose your fill without formatting. And that gets that. Now, when you're filling, this row adds B3 through G3. When I copy it down, okay, this one adds B6 through C6, which is what you want to do. So the ranges change without it. Filling or copying it is a much easier way. Let me show you one more thing I forgot to show you before. If I set this up here and I hit sum, it's going to guess right. If I decide just to hit sum again, it'll guess right again. The next time I hit sum, now look what it's doing. It's guessing up. There's no reason for me to keep entering that formula again and again. It's just asking for trouble, to be honest with you. So go ahead, once you have a formula that you know works, just use that fill handle and copy that formula through the spreadsheet. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the rows down here. Another trick I didn't show you, if we want to total each of those columns, I can actually select all of the cells I want to put totals in and hit that sum button, and it will total them just like that. Okay. And then for the average, again, we're going to want to do the average. We'll use the shortcut again. I'm going to select the range, choose average, and it's going to put it in the next blank cell. For the min, let's come up here. We'll do min. I'll go back and fix that range, so make sure it's B3 through B7. And we'll do the same thing with the max. Max, make sure it's B3 through B7. Press enter, and then I have my formulas in there, and I can select all 3 together, and I can fill them across, there we go, to June. Okay, so that is the built-in functions. And there's so many of them, but there's just not enough time to get further into that. If you think, wow, this is something that's really, really useful, come see me in CSC 175. The next thing I want to talk about are formulas, because there's not a built-in function for everything. Sometimes you just want to do subtraction or multiplication or division or something, okay? When you're setting up your formulas, you're always going to start with the equal. Okay, equal sign is your way of telling Excel that you're doing a formula or a function, and then you have addition and subtraction, which we know. We have multiplication, which is a star, Shift 8, or on the keypad. Oops. And then slash is divide. Okay, again, that's under the question mark. And we have caret if you want to raise something to a power, and we of course have percent. One of the things to keep in mind when you're using setting up formulas is it uses standard of order operations. So think way back to like 5th grade. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Everyone hopefully remembers that. Parentheses, exponentiation, multiplication, division, left to right, addition, subtraction, left to right. And just to demonstrate that, I'm going to enter two formulas. I'm going to put in 1, 6 plus 8 in parentheses, okay, times 7. So what that means when I set that up is it's going to add 6 and 8 and then multiply the total times 7. If I put that same formula in, 6 plus 8 times 7, without the parentheses, then it will multiply 8 times 7 and then add 6. So I get a completely different answer. So order of operations matters. If you don't get an answer that makes sense to you, please go back and check that you didn't leave out some parentheses or forget to factor in order of operations. Okay. When you are putting a formula in, ideally, just like we did in the functions, you'll use cell references. If you do that, then your numbers can change and you can still get the correct results. Okay. So I'm going to actually have you enter it. We'll do this part together. A function to calculate our profit. And we're going to say that our profit is 15% of the total sales. Whatever we sell, we make 15% of that as profit. So we'll do this together on page 7. Profit, here, we'll type that in and press tab to get to the next cell. Now, our profit is 15% of our total sales for January. So I'm going to start with the equal. So you can go ahead and do this with me. Start with your equal. Okay. Then we're going to click on B8 because we want to multiply B8, okay, and we're going to multiply that, so times, and we're going to do 15%. And if I put the percent sign in there, it automatically converts it for me. I don't have to think, is that 0.15, is it 1.5, what is that? I don't remember. 15, I type the percent, it converts it to a percent for me. I press enter, boom, I have my profit for the month of January. Again, because I used a cell reference to refer to B8, I can fill this, okay, all the way across. Now, something you see here, see those pound signs, number signs, whatever you want to call them, hashtags? What that means, if I look up here, you can see my formula is fine, but my column is not wide enough to show my answer in the format that I've formatted it as. So the best way to fix that is either change your formatting, or I can just come up here and double click and adjust my column widths. Okay, so that's the other way around that. So, oh, and I wanted to calculate the total profit. We actually wanted to do it with a sum function to add them up, although you get the same answer, so it doesn't matter. And just as a little reminder from last week, we'll take this A14 through H14 and we'll use our cell styles and add that total cell style to that one too. Again, it's nice to make the important numbers pop. Okay, and I lied when I said I was going to do it all together because we're going to stop there and then we will do charts on its own video.